The calls for coaching changes are getting loud enough for a few schools in the Triangle that I think it's time to discuss, right? I don't like it. I feel awkward by it, but I read the same things that many of you read, and you go from there. We'll start with UNC. We'll go to State shortly after. Dan Wolken of USA Today is a longtime sports writer. He's covered the sport in a bunch of different capacities. Started his article on UNC and Hubert Davis with a metaphorical flamethrower. I'm just gonna read you the first couple sentences because I want to see your reaction the same way I read my reaction. I'm sure my face. I'm bad at covering my emotions. Like if I were just reading it, my camera were on my computer, it would have been like, whoa, would have seen my eyes get big. This is how it started. As North Carolina officials assess the state of their basketball program in Hubert Davis's fourth season, they only need to ask themselves one simple question. Do they have one of the top 10 basketball coaches in the country or not? If the Tarheels believe they do, then Davis should get one more chance to fix a program that looks shockingly broken. If they conclude that Davis isn't a top 10 coach, then they need to make a change. They need to do it after this season, and they need to hire someone who fits in that category regardless of whether that person has any prior connection to the school. All right, that's now I'm back to the show.
Yeah.
That's flamethrower.
Mm-hmm.
Top 10 coach is such a high threshold. That's not like, oh, is he a good coach? Oh, can you win a national title with him? Oh, that's top of the top of the top, because if you look at top 10 coaches in the country, a lot of those guys aren't available. And there's not a bunch of schools out there with one of the top 10 coaches in the country that are just waiting for somebody else to come poach them. But at the same time, you have to hit with UNC is such a highly thought of position, and maybe they could just go out there and poach one of the top 10 coaches in the country. And if you can do that, that does put a certain amount of pressure on your current coach. Right? If you are a lesser program, of which darn near everybody is, if you're a lesser program, you might give your coach 5 years, 6 years, 7 years to develop into the peak of their coaching potential. But if you're UNC, it's like, kind of why? When you could just go pick someone who's already one of the 10 best at the profession. I hate to say it, it's because people get mad when you're a fan of like multiple different teams in different parts of the country and they're all just the big brands. It's very Lakers-like. The Lakers could draft someone, work hard, develop them, turn them, or they can just trade for Luka because everybody wants to go play for the Lakers, right? They could draft someone, develop them up, or just sign LeBron and sign Shaq in free agency because everybody wants to play for the Lakers. You could take a coach who shows signs of being a great coach and give them just loads of runway and resources to go ahead and turn into the coach that you hope they'll be, or you can just go hire someone who's already the coach that you hope they'll be. And that's unfair to the coach that you hire that maybe wants time to develop because, everyone needs time to develop in their job. And I'm going to take it one step further. Learn from your football program. You need a coach with leverage to get the program to where it should be. The school being motivated to hire Bill Belichick led them to find the money for a lot of things that they might not have found otherwise. Right? Suddenly there's money that wasn't there before because you were able to go, if we want Bill Belichick, we got to figure out how to fill in the blank. Let's say, now we're going hypothetical. I'm not calling for it, but let's say they move on from Hubert. Let's say Nate Oates from Alabama or Billy Donovan from the NBA or one of the big flashy names says, yeah, I'll come to UNC, but I need to see in writing in my contract X amount of NIL support, X amount of front office support. I need to not only have a GM, but a director of scouting, both high school, college. I need to have all of these things that you have at a premier program that UNC should. And whether it's there or not, to get this coach, this crown jewel, now you have to. It's almost like, maybe not identical, but there's this saying about like kind of my generation that we job hop. And they say it's the fastest way to accelerate your career, right? Go to this place, that place, this place, that place. As long as you're getting a promotion every time, you're going to be fine. Jumping coaches can be that way too. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, Hubert's already here. He knows he's not living up to standards right now. He's not going to go in and demand a whole bunch of stuff in NIL because he's just happy that, he's getting another shot at it. The next coach might demand some things, and that might be the difference. NC State, on the other hand, they have a different problem. One Final Four every handful of years is probably enough for some in that fan base, right? It took them 40 years to get there once again.
Every handful of years? I mean, from 83 to 2024?
Yeah. But if you could do, Kevin Keatts has been there, we'll call it a decade, round number. One time every decade to the Final Four, there are going to be some in the fan base that are like, we waited 40 years, I'm going to wait 8. You have to ask yourself this if you're a State fan or if you're a State administrator. How low do the lows have to be to undo one massive, massive high? Missing the ACC tournament has to be unacceptable, and it has to be obvious that it's unacceptable. If they miss the ACC tournament, not the NCAA tournament, the ACC tournament, which includes missing the NCAA tournament, how do you show that it's unacceptable without damaging your program if he's still around, right? And I'm not saying there's not an answer to that question. I'm just saying you got to find it, right? Can you publicly say that season is totally and completely unacceptable for a program like NC State to miss the ACC tournament and then still expect that coach to be able to improve, because that kind of cuts the legs out from under him? How do you recruit when that just happened? How does anybody buy into the future when that just happened? Last year's run, I believe, should have raised the floor of State. I'm not saying that, all right, now that you made it, you should be top of the ACC every year. Now that you won the ACC tournament, made a Final Four, now that's the expectation. But it should raise the floor a certain amount, right? I don't think it's outrageous to say, now that you've been the national story, now that you've proven you can turn guys into national kind of phenomenons, well, maybe that should eliminate finishing in the bottom 4 of an 18-team ACC.
Right now, you're tied for basically bottom 2.
It's like, maybe that you should raise the absolute bottom basement expectation to 14th in the ACC. Like, I'm not asking for the moon and the stars. I'm just asking for a little bit of separation between the basement and you. There are very, very difficult questions that both of these programs have to ask, and they have to have really, really solid answers, because if you don't, it's near impossible to manage a program with those questions hanging over your head. Doesn't it feel, and I've used this example in the past, sorry if I'm a broken record on it, doesn't it feel like after this season there's going to be press conferences saying we're not firing the coach? And that's never a good sign.
No, it's not. When you get the vote of confidence.
Like that nobody asked for.
Yeah.
Like just hey, we got a press conference coming up, and I just want to let you know everything that was before the press conference is still true after the press conference, and like an athletic director puts out a statement. It's not a good sign. So for me, these last 9-10 games of the year for both of these squads, you better build up some momentum so there's something to point to going into the offseason that makes those questions a little bit obsolete. Now, there's no nails in coffins yet, but there's questions being asked that are really difficult to answer.